If you're over 60, every choice you make, how you manage stress, how often you're intimate, and how you care for your body directly impacts your prostate. But what if I told you there's one extremely common habit men do during sex that's silently damaging their prostate day after day? As a urologist, I've seen too many men walk into my office feeling fine, only to discover they're battling prostatitis, urinary dysfunction, or in some cases, the early signs of prostate cancer. Most men don't realize the mistake they're making. It's not just about aging or how often you have sex. It's about a simple behavior that seems harmless, even normal. But over time, it builds tension, causes inflammation, and slowly sets your prostate up for failure. In this video, I'm begging you to stop this one damaging habit before it's too late. And that's not all. I'll also reveal the 7 hidden habits quietly harming your prostate every day. Each one increases your risk of discomfort, dysfunction, or serious disease. The good news? They're all preventable. You just need to know what to avoid and what to do instead. Stay with me until the end. Habit number 1 is the most common one I see in men of all ages, and it's also the most dangerous. Before we get started, make sure to click subscribe and tap the bell icon. That way, you'll always stay updated with practical tips made specifically for your health journey. And if you're finding this helpful so far, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps me improve what I share with you. 1. Most dangerous and most common. Prolonging or suppressing ejaculation for too long. In today's world, where sexual performance is often glamorized and tied to masculine identity, many men unknowingly adopt habits that do more harm than good. One of the most common and most quietly destructive of these habits is deliberately delaying or suppressing ejaculation during sexual activity. As a urologist, I've spoken to countless men who believe that lasting longer in bed was a badge of honor, something to be pursued at all costs. Some use mental tricks to hold off climax. Others grip their pelvic muscles tightly, almost as if they're battling their own body. What they don't realize is that this forced control places immense strain on one of the most sensitive and critical parts of the male anatomy, the prostate gland. The prostate is not just a small organ tucked away under the bladder. It's a dynamic part of your reproductive system. It produces the fluid that nourishes and protects sperm. It contracts during ejaculation. It's intimately tied to your pelvic nerves, muscles, and urinary flow. And when you interfere with its natural rhythm by holding back ejaculation over and over again, you disrupt this delicate balance. This habit may start off feeling empowering, but over time it can lead to something far worse: congestive prostatitis. The prostate becomes swollen, irritated, and overworked from the buildup of unrelieved fluid and tension. Symptoms start to appear subtly, perhaps a dull ache in the perineum, discomfort during urination, or a strange pain after sex. Eventually, this can snowball into chronic pelvic pain syndrome, erectile dysfunction, or painful ejaculation that haunts every intimate moment. Emotionally, the impact is just as damaging. Men often feel confused and betrayed by their own bodies. They wonder why something so natural, sexual intimacy, has become a source of discomfort or dread. In some cases, relationships suffer. Confidence dips, and still many don't realize the root of the problem lies in this one seemingly harmless habit. The truth is, your body isn't designed to hold back indefinitely. Ejaculation is a normal, healthy process. It's not something to be feared or fought. When done regularly and naturally, it helps flush the prostate, relieve muscular tension, and reduce inflammation. In fact, regular ejaculation has been linked in several studies to a lower risk of prostate cancer and better overall urinary health. If you've made a habit of delaying orgasm, whether due to insecurity, pornography expectations, or pressure to please, now is the time to reframe that mindset. Let go of the shame or the need to perform. Embrace a healthier, more intuitive connection with your body. Your prostate will thank you for it. And this is just the beginning, because if you're unknowingly stressing your prostate during sex, you might also be damaging it outside the bedroom without realizing it. In the next part, I'll reveal a surprising everyday habit that's quietly putting your prostate at risk, and it's something most men do without thinking twice. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Infrequent ejaculation. There's a silent misconception that begins to settle in many men as they age, that sexual activity, especially ejaculation, becomes less important, even unnecessary. Life gets busy, stress builds, energy fades, and slowly the body's natural urges are suppressed. Some men stop having sex entirely. Others avoid masturbation due to guilt, embarrassment, or outdated beliefs. But beneath this quiet withdrawal lies a danger that very few people talk about: the risks of infrequent ejaculation on prostate health. The prostate isn't a passive gland. It's a living, responsive organ that requires regular function to stay balanced. Just like your heart needs movement and your lungs need air, your prostate needs to release. When you go too long without ejaculation, the fluids your prostate produces begin to stagnate. And with stagnation comes inflammation, discomfort, and vulnerability to disease. Scientific studies have consistently found that men who ejaculate more frequently, around 21 times a month, are significantly less likely to develop prostate cancer than those who do so less than 7 times. This isn't about sexual indulgence. This is about biological maintenance. Ejaculation helps clear out toxins and reduce pressure within the gland. It promotes blood flow, improves tissue health, and helps the prostate function the way it was designed to. But there's another layer. Men who abstain from sexual release for long periods often don't realize how much it affects their emotional and psychological well-being. Libido is deeply connected to vitality. When sexual energy is ignored or repressed, many men report feeling anxious, irritable, or even depressed without knowing why. Their bodies are asking for balance, but they've been taught to ignore the signs. I've seen patients come in with pelvic pain, urinary difficulties, and even erectile dysfunction, yet no sign of infection or obvious abnormality. Often after deeper discussion, the truth surfaces. They hadn't ejaculated in weeks or even months, and once they returned to regular healthy sexual release, either with a partner or alone, many of their symptoms gradually faded. The change was real. The relief was tangible. This isn't about pressuring anyone into sex. It's about understanding your body's needs and honoring them without shame. Whether you're in a relationship or single, whether you're 40 or 70, your prostate still benefits from regular, respectful attention. Don't fall into the trap of thinking sexual health is something you outgrow. It's something you grow into with more awareness, maturity, and purpose. So if you've been quietly avoiding intimacy either out of fear, fatigue, or habit, it may be time to reconnect with that part of yourself. Your health depends on it more than you think. But ejaculation isn't the only silent factor that could be harming your prostate. In fact, there's one habit men practice during sex that feels good in the moment but can leave lasting damage deep within your pelvic nerves. What is it? You'll want to know because the next one might shock you. 3. Rough or aggressive intercourse. There's a myth that's been ingrained in male culture for generations. The idea that the harder, rougher, and more intense sex is, the better. From movies to locker room talk, the message is clear. Passion means power and dominance means satisfaction. But as a urologist who's treated thousands of men, I can tell you this with certainty. When it comes to your prostate and pelvic health, rough sex isn't always better. It can actually be dangerous. The male pelvic floor is an intricate web of muscles, nerves, and vessels. It's responsible not just for sexual function, but for bladder control, core stability, and overall well-being. And nestled in the center of this sensitive network is your prostate, a small but vital gland that isn't built to withstand repeated trauma, excessive pressure, or intense pounding. Yet many men push past their body's limits during intercourse, chasing longer sessions, harder thrusts, or more vigorous movements to impress a partner or match some unrealistic standard. What they don't realize is that these habits can stretch and strain the very muscles and nerves their body depends on for control, sensitivity, and balance. Over time, this aggressive approach can cause inflammation in the prostate and surrounding tissues. It can lead to chronic pelvic pain syndrome, where a man feels a deep ache or pressure in his groin, lower abdomen, or perineum with no clear infection or injury. For some, the pain starts as a dull irritation. For others, it becomes a burning or stabbing discomfort that lingers for weeks, months, or even years. And the hardest part? Many don't even connect it back to their sexual habits. Men come to my clinic desperate for answers, terrified something is permanently broken. Some haven't been able to sit comfortably for months. Others say their once pleasurable orgasms are now followed by hours of discomfort. And the root cause, more often than not, was a pattern of sex that disregarded the body's warning signs. Pelvic tension, soreness after intimacy, or a nagging pain that was brushed off as normal. Healthy intimacy should never leave you in pain. It should be a connection, not a performance. Sex is not a competition, it's communication, trust, and respect, not just with your partner, but with yourself. If you find yourself pushing too hard, clenching too tight, or ignoring your body's signals, it's time to pause and reassess. Gentler doesn't mean weaker. In fact, it means wiser. By learning to tune into your body, to listen to discomfort instead of powering through it, you're not only protecting your prostate, you're preserving your ability to enjoy intimacy for years to come. But rough sex isn't the only hidden danger. Sometimes the most damaging habits happen after the act is over, when we return to our routines and overlook small but crucial steps. And one of the most overlooked? It has everything to do with what you do or don't do right after you finish. Don't miss this. What comes next could be the key to preventing years of unnecessary discomfort. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Ignoring pain after ejaculation. There's a quiet kind of pain that many men live with but rarely talk about. The kind that shows up after something that's supposed to bring relief, closeness, and satisfaction. I'm talking about pain after ejaculation. It's more common than you think, yet it's often brushed off, ignored, or hidden behind silence and discomfort. As a urologist, I've sat across from countless men who hesitated before bringing it up, unsure if what they were feeling was normal. Some describe it as a dull ache in the lower abdomen. Others feel a burning sensation deep in the pelvis, or a sharp, stinging discomfort right after climax. They often wait weeks, sometimes months before seeking help, convincing themselves that it's just stress or aging or something that will go away on its own. But here's the truth. Pain after ejaculation is never something you should ignore. It's not a sign of strength to tough it out. It's a sign that your body is trying to tell you something, and that message may be more urgent than you realize. Post-ejaculatory pain is often linked to prostatitis, an inflammation of the prostate gland that can become chronic if left untreated. It can also point to nerve irritation in the pelvic floor or even early signs of infection or structural imbalance. While some causes are mild and treatable, others, if overlooked, can lead to long-term complications that affect not just sexual function, but overall quality of life. What's heartbreaking is that many men wait until the pain is unbearable. By the time they come in, they've been suffering in silence, living with anxiety, avoiding intimacy, and feeling isolated in their experience. Pain during or after ejaculation chips away at confidence, trust, and connection. It's not just physical, it's emotional, and it has the power to quietly erode a man's sense of self. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you ever feel pain, pressure, burning, or discomfort after sex, listen to your body. Don't write it off as a fluke or something to be ashamed of. There are answers. And more importantly, there are solutions. From simple anti-inflammatory treatments to pelvic floor therapy or antibiotics, many cases can be managed effectively if they're addressed early. Your sexual health is part of your total health. When something feels off, it matters. You deserve to feel safe in your own body. You deserve to enjoy intimacy without fear of what comes after. And speaking of what comes after, there's one simple habit that could either protect your prostate or slowly sabotage it, depending on whether you remember to do it. It takes less than a minute, but most men skip it entirely. In the next section, I'll show you why this one post-sex routine could be the difference between a healthy prostate and a painful future. 5. Using sexual enhancers without medical advice. In a world obsessed with performance, it's no surprise that sexual enhancers have become so popular. From over-the-counter pills to herbal blends and online miracle supplements, men are bombarded with products promising longer erections, increased stamina, and better performance. For many, these offers feel like a lifeline, especially when age, stress, or health issues start to affect confidence in the bedroom. But behind these glossy promises lies a quiet risk, one that too many men overlook until it's too late: the danger of using sexual enhancers without medical supervision. What most men don't realize is that these products, especially those bought online or marketed as natural, are not always what they claim to be. I've had patients bring in bottles filled with foreign ingredients, unknown chemicals, and hidden pharmaceutical compounds. Some of these unregulated enhancers contain active ingredients similar to prescription drugs like Viagra or Cialis, without any oversight, quality control, or proper dosing. Others include substances that can dangerously interact with blood pressure medications, heart treatments, or diabetes drugs. The truth is, your prostate, heart, and overall health are deeply interconnected. When you take a substance that forces blood flow, alters hormone levels, or stimulates nerve responses without knowing how your body will react, you risk triggering a cascade of consequences. I've seen men experience severe pelvic inflammation, increased urinary retention, even acute prostatitis, all linked to the unmonitored use of sexual enhancers. But the damage isn't just physical. For many, these pills become a psychological crutch. Men begin to believe they can't perform without them, creating a cycle of dependence and anxiety. Sex becomes less about connection and more about performance, about living up to a false standard fueled by advertising and silent insecurity. That pressure adds emotional weight, eroding intimacy rather than enhancing it. Let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with needing help. Erectile dysfunction is incredibly common, and there are safe, effective medical solutions available. But they should be prescribed by someone who understands your full health picture, not a faceless website or a gas station shelf. When you work with a doctor, you're not just getting a pill, you're getting guidance, protection, and peace of mind. Your body deserves care, not shortcuts. Your health deserves clarity, not guesswork. And your prostate, already sensitive with age, deserves respect. So if you've been relying on enhancers without ever having a real conversation with your doctor, now is the time to stop. Get evaluated. Ask questions. There may be a safer, more personalized approach that improves both your sexual health and your long-term well-being. But here's something most men never think about. What happens when you sleep? It might seem like the safest, calmest time for your body, but if you're like millions of others, your prostate could be struggling every single night without you even knowing it. In the next part, we'll uncover the hidden sleep-related condition that's quietly draining your energy and silently hurting your prostate. 6. Skipping prostate screenings. There's a quiet, dangerous assumption that many men carry with them as they age: if I feel fine, then I must be fine. It's a belief rooted in pride, fear, and sometimes even denial. And while that mindset may feel protective, especially when it comes to something as personal as your prostate, it can become the very reason a serious condition is missed until it's too late. Skipping prostate screenings is one of the most common and most devastating mistakes I see as a urologist, especially among men over 45. I get it. No one looks forward to those appointments. The idea of a prostate exam can stir discomfort, embarrassment, even shame. Many men avoid it not because they don't care about their health, but because they're afraid of what might be found. Others convince themselves that no symptoms mean no problem. But here's the hard truth. Prostate issues, including cancer, often grow silently, without pain, without signs, without warning. The prostate doesn't scream for attention. It whispers. A slightly weaker stream. A little more urgency at night. Subtle changes that are easy to ignore. But while you're carrying on with life, confident that everything is fine, something might be changing inside your body that deserves your attention, not next year, not when it gets worse, but now. Early detection changes everything. When prostate cancer is found early, it's often highly treatable. When benign enlargement is caught in time, we can manage symptoms before they interfere with your life. When inflammation or infection is detected, it can be reversed before it causes lasting damage. A simple PSA blood test and a quick digital rectal exam could be the difference between early peace of mind and late regret. What breaks my heart is hearing men say, "I wish I came in sooner." Sometimes they waited too long. Sometimes the signs were there, but they brushed them aside. And the worst part? Many of them weren't scared of the exam. They were scared of the possibility that something might be wrong. But facing something early is how you take your power back. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. If you're reading this and it's been more than a year since your last prostate check, or if you've never had one at all, please don't wait. If you're over 45, especially with a family history, this isn't optional. It's essential. You owe it to yourself, to your partner, to your future. The strongest men I know aren't the ones who hide their fears. They're the ones who face them head on. Don't let pride or procrastination rob you of years you could still enjoy. Your body is speaking. Don't ignore it. And yet, even with regular screenings, your daily habits still play a massive role in your prostate's long-term health. In fact, there's one thing millions of men do every day without thinking that might quietly be undermining their prostate, starting first thing in the morning. You might have done it today without realizing. Let's talk about it next. 7. Holding in urine during or after sex. It's a habit so small, so seemingly harmless that most men don't think twice about it. Whether it's out of convenience, laziness, or simply the belief that it can wait, holding in urine after sex, or worse, during arousal, is something many men do without realizing the silent toll it takes on their prostate and urinary health. What seems like no big deal in the moment can actually be the beginning of something much larger, something painful, persistent, and completely preventable. As a urologist, I've treated far too many men who walked into my office with vague complaints: pelvic pressure, burning during urination, lingering discomfort after sex. They hadn't changed their diet. They hadn't had any major injury. But when I asked them about their post-sex habits, a pattern emerged. They often delayed urinating after intimacy. Here's what happens. During sexual arousal and ejaculation, the body's internal systems shift. The prostate swells slightly, the pelvic floor muscles tighten, and the urethra experiences pressure. It's a completely normal part of the male sexual response, but after ejaculation, the body needs to reset. And one of the simplest ways it does that is by flushing the urinary tract. When you hold in urine, especially after sex, you trap residual bacteria, semen, and pressure within the urethra and around the prostate. Over time, this creates the perfect environment for inflammation and infection. The result? Chronic prostatitis, urinary tract infections, and a disrupted pelvic floor that never quite feels at ease. But it's not just about physical symptoms. Men who regularly hold in urine after sex often describe feeling uncomfortable or incomplete afterward, as if their body didn't fully release. That unease can turn into anxiety. Over time, sex becomes associated not with relief or closeness, but with tension and worry. It's a slow erosion of what should be a healthy, pleasurable part of life. The fix is remarkably simple yet profoundly important. Urinate after sex. Even if you don't feel a strong urge, make it a routine. It helps cleanse the urethra, reduce the risk of infection, and ease pressure from the pelvic region. It's one of the easiest ways to protect your prostate, and yet it's often forgotten. If you've been skipping this step, don't blame yourself. It's not something most men are taught, but once you know better, you can do better. Treat your body with the same care you'd offer someone you love. That single trip to the bathroom could save you months or even years of pain. And while what you do after sex is important, so is what you avoid before and during intimacy. Because there's one modern behavior that millions of men engage in before they ever touch their partner, something that seems innocent but may actually be disrupting your hormones and overstimulating your nervous system. It's more common than you think, and the consequences reach far beyond the bedroom. Let's dive into that next. Whoa. 8. Bonus tip. Use a prostate health tracker. There's something powerful about paying attention, about noticing the small changes before they become big problems. Yet when it comes to prostate health, most men wait until the discomfort is loud enough to interrupt their lives. They wait for pain, for frequent urination, for disrupted sleep, for intimacy to feel different, then they react. But by that time, what could have been a gentle course correction often turns into a more serious intervention. That's why one of the most underrated but profoundly important habits you can build is this. Start tracking your prostate health. We track everything else in life, our weight, our steps, our heart rate, even our calories. But when it comes to something as vital as the organ responsible for our sexual function, urinary control, and long-term vitality, we somehow overlook it. Not because we don't care, but because we've never been taught to pay attention. That needs to change. Using a prostate health tracker, whether it's a digital app, a simple journal, or even mental notes you reflect on weekly, isn't about obsession. It's about awareness. It's about noticing how often you're waking up at night to urinate, how your stream feels, whether you experience post-ejaculatory discomfort, whether you're urinating more frequently than usual. These are subtle signals that often get dismissed as just aging, but they're your body's early warning system. I've had patients who started tracking out of curiosity and ended up catching early-stage prostate issues long before they became serious. They didn't need medication, they didn't need surgery, they just needed information and a bit of time each week to reflect on what their body was telling them. That level of self-care isn't just proactive, it's life-changing. More importantly, tracking gives you power. When you finally do visit your doctor, you'll have patterns and data, not vague memories. You'll be able to say, here's what I've noticed, and your doctor can respond with clarity and precision. It turns your healthcare into a partnership, not a guessing game. And if you're the kind of man who's always brushed this off, who's told yourself you'll deal with it later, this is your invitation to start small. Not because something is wrong, but because you value what's right. You value staying ahead. You value taking care of the body that's taken care of you all these years. The future of men's health isn't just in new treatments or fancy procedures, it's in paying attention earlier, listening deeper, and responding sooner. And a tracker, no matter how simple, is a daily reminder that your well-being is worth protecting. And now that you've seen these 7 habits and the bonus tip that could change everything, there's one final truth I need to share with you. It's not a warning, it's a message of hope. Because even if you've made every mistake on this list, even if you've ignored the signs, it is not too late. Let me show you how to start healing your prostate, one intentional step at a time. Your prostate has protected you. Now it's time to protect it. Your prostate has been working quietly for you since the earliest days of manhood. It supported your fertility, your sense of masculinity, your confidence, and your intimate connections. It's never asked for much in return, but as you grow older, your prostate changes, and what once functioned in the background now needs your conscious care and attention. The truth is, most men ignore their prostate until something goes wrong. They wait for the discomfort, the interrupted sleep, the pain after sex, the fear when urination suddenly becomes a challenge. Only then do they seek help, but by that point, what could have been simple prevention turns into complex treatment. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait for that moment. Every small decision you make, how you have sex, how often you release, whether or not you pee after intimacy, the supplements you take, how often you get screened, all of it adds up. These aren't just habits, they're messages you send to your body. They either say, I'm listening, or I'm ignoring you. The difference between those two is often the difference between a healthy life and a life full of complications you could have avoided. I know this journey can feel overwhelming. Most men were never taught how to care for their prostate. You were probably raised to stay quiet about discomfort, to power through, to measure health by performance instead of well-being. But those old rules, they don't serve you anymore. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's wisdom. And paying attention to your prostate is not about fear, it's about self-respect. So here's what I want you to take away. Even if you've made every mistake on this list, even if you've ignored the signs or brushed off symptoms, it's not too late. The body is incredibly resilient when we begin to care for it with consistency and compassion. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to begin. Start with one habit. Choose the one that spoke to you most. Make a small change today, then another tomorrow. You'll be amazed how quickly your body responds to care, to attention, to intention. And you won't be doing it just for yourself. You'll be doing it for the relationships that matter to you, for the peace of mind you deserve, for the freedom to age with strength, clarity, and confidence. Your prostate has supported your life for decades. Now it's your turn to return the favor. Treat it with care, honor it with action, and protect it before it's too late. Because you don't need to wait for a warning sign to start healing. You just need to listen now and take the next right step forward.